I got inspired by the Cuban sandwich, and we wanted to reflect that in our menu, right. Even though that we were not serving food at the time. But I wanted a drink indicative of every ethnicity that came through Ybor City.
Welcome to Tampa's Table, a culinary journey. I'm Jeff Hauk, Vice President of Marketing for the 1905 family of restaurants. My guest today is Roberto Torres, owner and operator of Blind Tiger Coffee. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
You've got so much in your universe. I only wanted to start with Blind Tiger. We're going to talk about coffee, but tell me the universe of Roberto. What do you've got Blind Tiger, and what else?
We have the first company is called Black & Denim. It's an apparel company. And with that company, we have 7 stores in the airport. And then in 2014, November 13, 2014, we opened the Blind Tiger. And that's exactly it. Yeah. You know.
So the Black & Denim is in Tampa International Airport.
Black & Denim is in Tampa International.
And that's the kiosk that you see that
correct.
Sell apparel? Or?
On the main terminal, Tampa Bay Sports, and then on Earthside A, we have an In Motion Electronics, a Ron Jar and Surf Shop, and a Stellar Bay, which is news convenience. And then on Earthside C is another new Stellar Bay. And then on Earthside F, Tumi Swarovski store and another Stellar Bay.
Damn, that's a lot of territory.
Yeah.
So we wanted to talk specifically about coffee in Tampa.
Yep.
You and I have had long conversations about this and Tampa's rich coffee history. I was thinking about it today. I don't think you can be a good or at least a well-regarded food town without having some sort of coffee culture.
That's right. Yeah.
What is it that you see? What does coffee add to that conversation about food?
When you talk about coffee, you want to talk about hospitality. And when you talk about hospitality, you talk about service. And I think for us, the idea really started in the genesis of retail. It's taking care of our customer. And for what we did, we were selling $200 pair of jeans and $50 t-shirts. So every step of the process, we were nurturing and taking care of our customer. Coffee was a natural transition for us because it allows us the opportunity to create community. Not only create it in a sense of creating spaces where people feel safe, compelled, seen, and heard, but also where they will feel that there is some sort of idea of where they can gather,
right?
And also investing in our community. That's a big part of it. So for me, hospitality is about service, and this idea about service through coffee, it's bigger than us. It's how can we weave our story through the fabric of the story of Tampa. And the story of Tampa has to begin with coffee.
It has to. You know, you and I have discussed that coffee was there at the genesis when it was a company town for cigar making.
That's right.
And the cigar rollers would be served cafecitos at their rolling tables to keep them going, while the lector would read articles. And so because of the cigar industry, there were cigar roasters in town.
That's right.
And the whole town smelled like cigars and bread and coffee roasting and pork, low tide, humans, animals, all that sort of thing. But coffee, I mean, I have to imagine with so many roasters in town that was just woven into the DNA of Tampa.
That's right.
So what's happening now, I always say, is not new. It's a continuation of the story.
That's right.
So you have an apparel company. How do you go into coffee?
So we started to look at how is it that we can that we can have a store or some sort of physical presence, because we were selling wholesale. We were selling to like about 400 boutiques across the country, Macy's, Star Mart, Walt Disney, and when we started looking at Ybor City, we wanted to have an outfit of our own. Mm-hmm. How is it that we can combine this idea of a boutique with something that will attract foot traffic? Because I knew that a boutique in Ybor City as a shopping district as a whole wouldn't sustain, or we didn't have enough legs. So we have seen other projects in other cities, bigger, larger, much larger cities that had successful, viable products or offerings like that. And that's what gave us the opportunity or the license to say, okay, we think we can open a boutique, and we think if we open it with coffee that it will survive.
So what proved to be true, and what surprised you once you got into the coffee industry?
The hours were ridiculously crazy to me because from 6 a.m. till noon. It's really the opportunity to drink coffee. We were thinking that we are going to open like at 11 a.m.
Right.
with like regular boutique hours. This idea about regularity, once you're in somebody's routine, you're locked in or dialed in. 60% of our business is returning customers, and they walk 3 times through our doors. What really surprised me was our fragmented demographic. 25 to 35 proves to be our sweet spot. 65% of them are women, a bachelor's degree or master's degree earners, $85,000 more of income. They're edgy themselves, and they love to come to our space. I would like to think that we're designing for women, but I don't think that's the case.
But having female customers shows that they trust the environment.
That's right. And I believe that for us, the primary offering was that we didn't want them to feel like, or they had to read a book about coffee for them to come to the store. And making it easy that way, right, I think proved to us to be our secret sauce. When they first walk in, we ask them if they like coffee or not coffee, if they like it sweet or unsweet, if they like it milk or no milk. And then 98% of the time, we can kind of like dial it in into something that they like.
Is there a certain style or order that Tampa likes? I know you have locations throughout the city, and you started in Ybor City,
right?
But you're all over the map,
right? Is
there one definitive thing that the Tampa coffee customer wants, or is it just too fragmented?
I think that depending on which store you go, we can kind of plot in the lines and kind of see who's ordering what. Lattes proved to be number one seller through in and throughout. But then after that, there's the specialty drinks. There's a café con leche. There's a café bonbon, which is very, very popular. And then there's nitro cold brew and regular cold brew. To me, what that does is that it speaks more volumes about who's drinking the coffee, mm-hmm, right? Young people are drinking more iced drinks. Old people like myself are drinking more hot drinks.
Well, that's why I have a hot drink here, Roberto.
Yeah. This is the drinking break.
I'm sorry, café con leche, you won't stop me. I love, you know this, I love your nitro cold brew.
Right.
I'll drink that during the summer anytime, but there's just something like, the café con leche that you serve has such great flavor, it should come with its own sleep number.
Thank you.
It is so perfect.
Well, I found myself in the summer of 2014 as we were getting ready to open the store, and I got inspired by the Cuban sandwich, and we wanted to reflect that in our menu, right, even though that we were not serving food at the time. But I wanted a drink indicative of every ethnicity that came through Ybor City. So, café con leche is inherently Cuban, and the reason why they do it with evaporated milk is because at the time, right, they didn't have the technology or the convenience of fridges.
Right.
So they needed to use evaporated milk, which gives it a distinct flavor, and that's what we use still.
And it could be safely dispensed, right, from a can.
Correct. And for the Spaniards, we picked up the café bonbon, which is a red traditional latte with regular whole milk, but we put 2 ounces of the sweetest, most amazing sweet condensed milk you can find, and that gives it a total different spin. And then for Germans, we did this ice caf, which is essentially sort of like a cold brew on a float, ice cream with a scoop of ice cream. And for the Italians, they already have the espresso. So I think most of the time, I think a lot of people think of coffee as this thing that is either traditional,
right,
or very American, because we only represent 5% of the population of the world, but we consume 25% of the world's coffee supply. So we're like coffee hawks. I mean, we drink 5 times who we are our weight in coffee. So having to think about what is it that we wanted to represent, right, specifically inherently Tampa, café con leche had to be there.
Well, and I tell people that, like we talked about the history of coffee in Tampa with the cigar making. We were a coffee town way before Seattle was.
Yes.
And we were a coffee town way before there was widespread air conditioning.
That's right.
And refrigeration and all of that. So it's like it is deep within the psyche of being in Tampa and feeling like a Tampano or a Tampanian or whatever you're going to call us these days. It's deep within there. Coffee is part of that experience of being in Tampa.
That's right. Yeah. And for the history of coffee, in 3 acts, you can kind of say that the first one was pre-war, like World War One, World War Two, and Americans happened to go to Europe, and their stomach is not churned or made up for the espresso, so they drench it in water, and then they call it Americanos. And then the second act is this Pete's coffee that starts in the 60s and gives legs to specialty coffee that Starbucks makes very popular. And then the third one is the specialty coffee, which is where we happen to play it in. And where we're looking for better beans, greater beans, where we're trying to develop relationships with farmers and growers, and we're trying to highlight some of the surrounding areas of different countries. And for us, that's really special and important.
Well, and as you know, especially over the past 25 years, there's a consciousness that comes with coffee.
Yeah.
And people identify their personalities or their beliefs through the type of coffee, where's it come from, the origin story, how it's produced. And so there's an extra layer of meaning there that a lot of foods don't have.
Right.
You and I had coffee on Friday, and we went to a pinky in the air kind of place because that's not usually where we go. And they had pastries with fruit on top and gold flake, because that's how we roll all the time.
That's it. That's how we do it.
And we looked on the coffee menu that was like these brass letters on the wall, and there's no cafe con leche.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how can you do this in Tampa with no cafe con leche? It's like it's like the ABCs without the A, I mean, you start the alphabet there for coffee conversation in Tampa, but that's just me. I might be a prima donna about it, but
well, when you happen to go to Chicago, you have deep dish. If you go to New York, you have New York pizza, no forks or knives. And for Tampa, it should be cafe con leche. No ifs or buts about it. I know that a lot of people will think that perhaps there is a good sophistication on taking different things, but there are some things that are unique or ethereal about it. They're just a holy grail. The cafe con leche is one of them.
I get it. Yeah, I had a friend, Barbara Cruz, who born in Cuba, lived and grew up in Miami, and then settled as an adult to be a teacher at USF here in Tampa. And she dips her whole Cuban sandwich in a cafe con leche. It changes the profile immediately.
Right.
And I had never done that before. I want to say maybe about a year ago. Blew my mind. And it's like, why aren't we doing that more? Why aren't we dipping more things in the cafe con leche? It's eminently dippable. It's creamy. It's got a little bit of backbone to it.
The same way how we think that we figure it out, other cultures and different parts of the world have the same thing. I mean, same thing with Vietnamese coffee.
Sure.
Same thing with Turkish coffee.
Sure.
In Kuwait, they call, what we call cafe bonbon, Spanish latte, because they know that this delicious thing with sweet condensed milk, it totally changes the profile of the drink. So being more respectful or open to other cultures and ideas, we kind of figure out that we have more in common than we like to think.
Absolutely. Every great culture has a coffee culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you're at home and you're not at the store, this is the conversation we've had with all the chefs and everybody who's been a guest.
Right.
It's like there's this fantasy about people who are in the hospitality industry about, when their chefs go home, they have this magnificent array of food and
everything's staged and mise en place and
exactly. Everything's ready. So what do you drink when you're off the clock?
So I have like about 25 bags of coffee from different multiple trips that I've taken within the last probably 10 years. And in each one, like fine wine, I'm trying to age and figure out when I feel like I want to drink it. I have a grinder, I have a pour over set, and I have a regular cup of coffee. So the regular cup of coffee gets Blind Tiger all the way. But the pour over set, when I'm feeling fancy, I just pick something that I haven't tasted in a while that I'm itching to try. I like to think that coffee doesn't age. Some people think that it does, but I like to dip my toe in different things sometimes. And usually that happens on the weekends. Right. Otherwise, the minute that I make a pot, I get the next one ready to go with water and everything else. And it's like the most cheap Mr. Coffee that you can get at like Best Buy. But that's done for two reasons. Number one, coffee is fuel. It doesn't matter what time of the day I'm making a pot of coffee. And number two, I have to be able to see and feel what other people are doing in the industry. Sure. We're always trying to analyze and think, okay, what is it that they're doing different than us? And we like to think ourselves, like how Tampa competes with other markets, other competitive cities. So we're actually going on another trip to Atlanta to visit the coffee scene and culture. And I know 8 different shop owners, and I'm taking my GM on my roster so that we can go in the road, and then we can, 2 days just sample coffees from all over the world.
Wow, coffee road trip. And by the way, the headline is Roberto Torres dips his toe into various coffees. I just want to make that clear. So when I started coming to Blind Tiger, first of all, what's the source of the name Blind Tiger?
It's a euphemism for a speakeasy. So in the 1920s, when all these illegal underground bars were getting formed, or they were in existence from 1919 until 1933, or 1920 until 1933, this moniker came about. People would charge a nickel entry at the door, and when the cops came, they were all pretending to drink coffee in their coffee cups. So that's really where it came from. So our idea was that we were disguising this boutique with a coffee shop. So when they came, they saw this full-fledged boutique with jeans and T-shirts and hats and shirts and jeans and sneakers and everything. And then they said, okay, this is kind of weird. So that was our idea. We were disguising a true boutique inside of the coffee shop. And as he has grown, now we have 7 independent shops in the Tampa Bay area and a few more to come.
Sure. You are the example that I cite about Tampa. And it's like the great thing about Tampa, I think, is that it's a very welcoming place.
Yeah.
If you come correct and you're new to town, it helps to have a little bit of money, but you have good energy, a good vibe, and a great idea, you're in. There's obviously going to be long timers that have been here, but I saw you go from this to this very quickly once people recognized that you had a passion for what you're doing and you had a passion for Tampa. And I'm wondering what your sense of that welcoming atmosphere was like on your end of it.
So it was surreal because I have been coming to Tampa. Number one, I'm an immigrant. I'm born and raised in Panama. I went to the best university in the world, Florida State University. Go Noles. And after that, I graduated with an accounting and finance degree. I have as much personality as 150,000 accountants together. So when I found myself as a small business owner, I like to use that instead of an entrepreneur, I found that there was a common thread among small business owners that was true in order to do business. Number one, you needed to be a decent human being.
Right.
You needed to have an incredible amount of kindness, friendliness, and respect. And if you practice those 3, then you're in, like you said. So I've been coming to Tampa since 1998, and I saw from 98 to 2006 the amount of growth that it typically exploded. I loved the airport because as an immigrant, I was flying back and forth all the time. This was the easiest airport to navigate because I was flying to Tallahassee or Miami.
Right.
So I for those 2 things, I definitely love Tampa. And for us, we like to think that this is the best kept secret or the pearl in this peninsula. It's the best city to be in. Is the most hospitable.
Right.
Is the one that brings you with your open arms. I'm originally from Panama, but my home is Tampa Bay.
That feels good.
Yeah.
It does feel like you're a part of Tampa Bay, like you've been here for a long time. I've known you for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
And I think if I recall correctly, the first time I met you, I was between jobs.
Yeah.
And you had a co-work space in Ybor City.
That's right.
And I needed a place to go every day. And I went there, and next thing I know, you like walk past me and you're like, "You want a cup of coffee?" I'm like, I was going to get one. Next thing I know, I had one. I'm like, that is just the best handshake.
That's it.
And that told me everything about your business, what your attitude was, what your philosophy was. And I as I saw your business grow and you be included in more and more, I'm like, well, that's what you hope for. You hope that the right people find the right people and that they come together and they make something special. And
we like to think that in this idea of hospitality, not customer service, because customer service is for somebody that is looking for service. In this idea of hospitality, we want to deliver legendary hospitality. Sure. And that is rooted on the mission that we have, which is totally inadvertently, whenever it comes to, a business transaction. We like to think that we are in the mission of helping immigration, that we're in the mission of helping social justice, and that we're in the mission of hunger relief or food insecurity. And when we start thinking about why is it that we do things for, and how is it that we're helping build community, when we try to think or steer ourselves into that direction, we like to believe that we're leaving this world a little better,
Sure.
and that every single one of our neighbors and friends can understand that there is hope or relief coming for any one of those three.
Well, from talking about paying it forward to actually looking forward, what do you have planned for the future?
Well, we have a few more stores that we want to open within the next 5 years. There's this master plan update at the airport that we'd love to be part of with the
For
new
the next
terminal.
side that comes in?
Correct. Yeah, which is going to come online in 2027. And at the same time, we're looking for some consumer packaged goods and for ready to drink goods that we want to put into grocery stores, and we also want to self distribute. So this idea about Blind Tiger. We're spreading the gospel of good coffee in Tampa. We don't know if we want to take it statewide or nationwide, but if there was an opportunity to do that, we would like to think, how is it that we can be meaningful not only 5 years from now, but 100 years from now? And why is it that we're doing it for, first and foremost?
And it'd be great if it came out of Tampa.
That would be amazing.
Anyway, cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you for the coffee and the conversation. Yeah. And you can find more episodes on YouTube of Tampa's Table, A Culinary Journey, and find them anywhere else podcasts are offered. Thank you for joining us.